Welcome to the Lorcana Wizard with your host, Wonderland. In today's episode, we'll be going over the top
Whoa, whoa,
10
whoa,
Dick
whoa, whoa, whoa,
Burns
whoa, whoa,
Lorcana.
whoa, whoa, bro,
Whoa,
dude,
what's...
dude.
I thought you were dealt with. What are you doing here?
I am far from dealt with. This is an interview, dude. You're not replacing me.
Oh,
I hope.
Sorry, I came early. My bad. Sorry. Oh, let's fix that. Let's go.
You got nothing to fix,
I'm ready
my
for
friend.
the interview.
You talking about Dick Burns, the member of Forbidden Mountain, Dick Burns, the incredibly rude in interviews, Dick Burns. Wonderful answer. Dick, do you have anything that you'd like to say to the people, to your teammates, to your oppositions, anything at all? This is your moment to shine. The microphone is yours. Say your piece.
Yeah, here's the thing. Next time you have me on here, I want to be interviewed by a respectable DLC commentator like Liam, not some EU trash. The only thing this guy's good at is taxes, tariffs, tea time, talking trash on Twitter, and he can't back it up.
Yeah, so that's going to be it. Thank you so much for joining me, Dick Burns. I've been Baker, and we'll see you soon.
No, I didn't say anything.
You didn't say anything. Well, that's
No,
good because I can assure you.
Nothing.
I'm going to assure you that Dick Burns is dealt with. I know we had a lovely time in Seattle.
Yo, what's up YouTube? Dick Burns here, and I am tired from my flight, but we have got to do a travel vlog, right, for Seattle. Who the heck drinks tea? It's America. Yeah, well, I mean, I guess, I don't know why it's red. But I'll have some tea, and, what the heck was I saying? I'm gonna just lay on the couch for a little.
Let's get things back on track. I am joined by the Seattle Disney Lorcana Challenge Champion of the World, Wonderland! My man, thank you so much for taking the time. I know you tried to sort of like steal my gig, but we'll let it go. I appreciate you being here.
Well, I don't know what you're talking about.
I'm sure. But bro, it is an absolute pleasure to have you here. It genuinely is. You've been on a list of people that I've been wanting to get onto the channel for an interview with for quite a while. I'm glad we were able to finally able to make it happen. And what perfect time to pull that trigger than straight after your championship victory. We're going to talk about a lot of things, but just off the bat, how you feeling, man? How you feeling after that?
Pretty good. I didn't know that it was winning a DLC that I had to do to get on the show, but it's good to know that
it helps.
It does help. It does help. We've been trying to find a time to do something. This is better than any other for sure.
Absolutely.
I still don't know if it's fully hit. It's just been a few days, but I'm still kind of feeling chill. I'm sure I'll just like out of the blue, just like jump in the air and click my heels and be like, "What?"
As you should.
Frame like in a Tarantino movie or something like that.
Absolutely. That's what you should do for Labyrinth. For like, you should make an intro video introducing you all in the style of like Reservoir Dogs, like with your names coming up. But yeah, I'm so chuffed for you, man. Like, and I said in my video I released yesterday where we were looking at all of the lists that. I'm gonna pay some compliments here. I think you are genuinely like a great example of a champion in Lorcana. You're someone that, again, you weren't on my radar before Lorcana. You're like many players in the scene. You're someone that I've only gotten to know over the time that Lorcana's been around, whether that's been through streams, watching content, keeping up with players that are doing well in events and like just active in the scene. And yeah, you've just always struck me as just like, there's a lot of really hard workers in Lorcana. There's a lot of really passionate players and a lot of really good players. But you have all that, but I think you've got the right attitude to top it all off. You all, like, I know we're going to talk a little bit about like the DLCs you've done in the past and not quite getting there and like the frustrations that came with that. But I always think you've handled it really well whenever you do make a post or a stream afterwards. Of course, we can see the disappointment, the self-frustration, but that's perfectly healthy. It's quite reasonable to feel like that. But to me, you always come off as like, learn from it, move on to the next, positive. Let's get them next time. And, I see you supporting the community. So, and by the way, none of this is to say that our other champions aren't very deserving. They all are. all of them. But yeah, you're someone that I really think deserves it. So huge congratulations to you, my man. I want to jump straight in. We've got a lot to talk about. For anyone that may not know who you are, or maybe they've recently come to, like, they saw you on stream, but they may not have seen your content, they don't know your history or anything like that. Can you just tell us a little bit about your history in TCGs, if any?
Well, TCGs in general, my older brother taught me how to play Magic the Gathering when I was like 8 years old. Around between 8 and 12, we were playing with Fallen Empires. If you played back then, it was just like my Thrall deck and Dark Ritualing into Singer Vampires versus like an Angel deck, like classic old school. And then I took a break for a while, saw some people playing cards in a new high school after I moved towns, became friends with them just because of that. So like, I mean, card games in general have made 90% of my friends in my life. It's just something I've always been like doing, and like I quite enjoy doing it. And it's like a great experience, and it's been good seeing, like, meeting a lot of people through that. I played Magic for after I relearned in high school. I played Magic for like 20 years. I occasionally will play other games, especially if they have digital clients. I did Legends of Runeterra a little bit, some Hearthstone a little bit. I don't like spending money. I'm not the wealthiest person in the world, and if there's a free to play model, I'm gonna try to do that. So I mean, I played Hearthstone. I could only, like, I'm gonna say I wasn't great at Hearthstone. I played at launch, and I basically had no legendary cards, and I got to like rank 12 with commons and uncommons, which isn't good because I know there was like a Face Hunter deck that had very few rares in it that I probably could have played and made legendary if I was good at it. But I did that. I played Legend Runeterra, hit the mythic whatever equivalency it is. Like, I got every card in that game. I really liked that digital clients free to play thing. But I kind of didn't stick with them because I did not like the format they used. It wasn't officially sponsored, but all of the like casual is the wrong word. All of the attempts at running events that had prizes were ran in a conquest format, where you have 3 decks and you show your deck list to your opponent before the round, and each of you ban one of your opponent's deck, and the first person to 2 wins gets it. So, and that's fun and all. I didn't really vibe with more than one deck. I played this like really cool deck that when I tell you about it, you'll understand why I like Doc so much. There was a 6-drop character that said when it comes into play, you discard your hand, you draw 3 cards and deal 3 damage to a character. And I played that in this Jinx discard aggro deck that was just like so much fun to play. And when I saw Doc, I was like, this is a cheaper version. And I had forgotten that it dealt damage. Obviously, if Doc dealt 2 damage, it would be absurd, like even more busted. But like, I was just like, this, I understand how this works. I've dealt with it before, so I'm going to play into that. And so that's why I ran off with Doc. But then when I heard Lorcana was coming out, I was just like, ooh, a game backed by Disney. There could be some money in that. Like, I like money.
I say it's perfectly fine reasoning. Again, sorry to cut you off, but just off the back of especially what you just said a moment ago is like, whether it's because you don't like spending money or just not in a position to like be spending lots and lots of money. If you want to invest your time into a card game, then some people need to have like that return available to them to justify it. So I will never ever have an issue with anyone saying they play the game for money, because like that's what fuels the habit for some. So, but yeah, please continue.
Yeah, and I'll jump back on the finances as another reason here in a second. But
sure.
I saw something about people playing Pixelborn. So I was like, oh, I'm going to play this and learn how to play and then see if it's fun. And then I'll know what deck is good. So then I'll know what kind of singles I want to order to play the game. And I jumped on, and my first deck that I had success with was like 28 Uninkables. I was running like 4. I mean, I played Magic, so I was used to playing 20 lands in a 60-card deck. So I was like, 28? This is more than half of my cards can be inked. I'm never missing a land.
Okay,
and eventually I would miss my 4th land drop, but I also played Lanterns, and it didn't impact me too much. But it was also like when the game first came out, no one knew what they were doing, myself included. And eventually, like, I mean, playing Magic, I was like, oh, whole new world. Wheel of Fortune. I also know how to play with these cards, and this card is banned in Magic, and for good reasons. It's absurd. This is basically the same thing, but I can exert this aerial card that also searches for it to do it. Like, sign me up. And so I kind of jumped on that bandwagon, and then like I cut down. I think I was on 24 on Inkables by the time I was just like, this is the list I'm playing. Like a week or two later when the set released. And then at that point, like once I got full on Pixelborn, I didn't play Magic again. I think I went back and I played once or twice, like some RCQs and I think an RC at the very beginning. And then I grinded into an RC playing Goblins, but meh. Which is why I guess so I've won multiple LCQs in Magic to get into an event. So like, while the January LCQs are going to cost a lot of money to go to, and while I might not agree with the 4-hour attendee thing, I would have spent the money to fly and I would have LCQ'd if I was able to get a ticket. So I'm not going to fault anyone for doing that, even though both of my LCQs, though, it took my second last chance qualifier. So only having one is kind of a down. But at the same time, if you could do throughout the day as many as you want, that would also be kind of hectic. So I could understand. And they have a finite amount of invite slots open too. So that makes sense why especially with how many people are signing up for these DLCs and not getting in, that they would limit it only to one. I don't like it, but I completely understand it. And after just playing a bunch of Pixelborn, I was just like, this is super fun. I went and played in the Lord of the Rings pre-release. I got mana screwed. I mean, I won the event, but I got mana screwed and was like, this is not nearly as much fun. But there's a version of Magic that my friends and I had played for years, and we called it Jank. And it's funny is because I found out Ducky also played this variant, and they called it Stack. And like a bunch of people all over the world have individually came up with this way to play Magic, which is basically Lorcana. You can take any card and put it face down as a resource. And that was like the alternation to the way. So I've actually been playing Lorcana for like 11 years now.
Oh, okay.
So if that shows why at the top of the leaderboards on Pixelborn right away, myself and Ducky were up there, is because like inking is such a difficult thing to do. And you can just lose the game from inking improperly.
Yeah. And you and Ducky had all this practice already of like this inking system. Yeah.
Understanding how to do it. Yeah. There's some other games like that. I was talking with Dan from TFM. No relation to Dick Burns. But
I don't know what you're talking about.
he played the WoW TCG, and I guess that's why he's also been enjoying this game and doing well, because it also had a similar resource system.
Gotcha.
Which I think, like, had Magic been made 10, 15 years later, it would probably have the same resource system. I think it's the best way for almost any game's resourcing. I quite enjoy it.
It's the most common comment I get from ex-Magic the Gathering players, or even just from other card games. Like I did an interview with Moyen, he was very much the same. Like it was the inking system that like really drew him into, because Moyen's someone who doesn't care about the Disney coat of paint. He's mechanics only, and I think you're probably more mechanics than coat of paint.
I lean a little that way.
Yeah. But it's such a strong thing to say for the game of Lorcana, that these players with these wide knowledges of these other great games doing kind of similar things are consistently saying like this is the best way to do it. So that's great.
Yeah, like, so not only does the game have Disney money backing it, which is like obviously an allure for a lot of people,
sure.
But the mechanics of the game are great.
Yeah.
And one of Magic's issues with the digital client, and it's not a problem with the game. I love this aspect of Magic, is the instance. But playing in a digital client, having to constantly press OK during your opponent's turn with everything they do, is just not fun. And so, like, Lorcana translates to digital gameplay much more pleasurably. I think I can't wait for an official digital client to come out. Like,
Yeah. Same.
I will be. So many of us are just going to be streaming every day,
Yeah.
as much as we can. It's just like it'll be so fun. I can't wait.
Great to hear your history, and again, someone else saying that it's the mechanics of Lorcana that brings them in. So we've covered what led you to picking up the game. Let's talk a little bit about your experience playing the game at a competitive level. So we've already mentioned, obviously, you had a great early record through Pixelborn leaderboards, partly because, again, you were already quite used to this inking system, and like you say, it's kind of like you've been playing Lorcana for a long time before everyone else was, but also just innately being a good player yourself. But then it got to, I mean, it was DLCs really, which was the real pickup in competition. I know there are other like unofficial events that happened in like more so in America, bigger events that you might have done well in, but I want to put the focus on the DLC specifically. So how many of them have, including the most recently, how many of them have you done?
Oh, I've played in all of them.
Every single
in
one.
the North America. In North America. Sorry.
Yeah.
I should clarify. I thought about it, but I was like, no, I can't justify flying across the world. I did get this cool pin.
At some point. Oh, that's super cool. Very nice.
And it says 6 for 6 DLCs, and she was handing it out. Missy Enchanted on Instagram was handing these out to people, and then she would write down how many you went on to. It was really cool.
That's super, super cool. Huge shout out to you, Missy Enchanted. And those of you in the community that, like, you know, I've had a couple of really sweet things myself, and I see photos and people talking about, like, little gifts and they've gotten from the community. And, like, just huge shout out to everyone for like, bringing that into the Lorcana world. So you've done every single North American DLC. Give us the cliff notes. Well, obviously, the emphasis is going to be on the most recent one, but give us the cliff notes of how you did at all of those events and what you played each time, if you can remember.
Well, humorously, I played Green Steel in Georgia. I had no idea what I wanted to play 2 days before the event. I mean, I had some thoughts, but it was really flip-floppy. I played 8 hours straight of Green Steel versus Green Steel against Kendall. And after that, I was like, all right, I'm playing it. Like, we started out, he was beating me like 60-40. After like 15 games, we were even. And then like after another 15 games, I was beating him like 60-40. And I was like, all right, like, I think I got this down. Like, I know what I need to be mulling for. I figured out a few things. And then in the event, every time I played the mirror, like, I would do certain things and just get insanely rewarded for it. And my opponent would do plays that I was doing in the first 10 games against Kendall that seem like the right play, but are just wrong. And like, I can't remember identically what it was. I know some of it had to do with when and when not to play your Ursula 2s and things like that. Because like, so whenever my opponent played an Ursula 2 on the play on turn 2, I basically fist pumped it, because in the mirror, we were just mulling all of our songs. Because if you get hit by that Ursula 2, you lose the game. So you're basically inking your inkable songs and praying you didn't draw a storm. Or if you drew a storm, you're praying they're good enough not to play it on turn 2, and you get rewarded for being bad or unlucky by drawing it. And my opponents always played it on turn 2. I played mine on turn 3 or 4, depending if I was on the play or the draw, right after they played an Ursula 3. And like half the time countered it. And it's like incredibly important in that scenario. So it was like something I learned from playing with Kendall, that like I should have just known, but like it just took the gameplay to see. It's like, yeah, it's good. And on level 1, it's good, but it's not good on level 2. And like maybe in level 5, it becomes good again, you know, like things like that can happen.
Sometimes you just have to get the miles behind a deck and like the amount of practice time. Like, I learned that recently when I tried playing red blue for the first time ever on paper. Like I played
easy
to
make mistakes.
And like Sailor actually did for his Metafy. He asked my permission. He was like, "Are you cool with this?" And for his community, he like watched one of my games and talked through. And I was there for it, and like we talked through what was right and what was wrong. But yeah, it was super punishing. But yeah, an example of like, I can play Ruby Amethyst any day of the week on no sleep, and like I know what I'm doing. But decks that I don't have the miles behind it, especially things like red blue that are so punishing to mistakes. Wasn't a pleasant experience. So green, and this was Bucky, right? Atlanta Times. That's how green still looked.
I was not on Bucky. I was playing So in set 3, the traditional green steel list was
with
the
Friar
turn 1 Murph,
Tucks.
turn 2 Flynn Rider, turn
Yeah.
3 Prince John, then Friar Tuck, or you could
Gotcha.
like Ursula, then Prince John double sing. So
Yeah.
it was like discard aggro.
Yeah.
We still had Beasts and Robin Hood, shift Robin Hoods. That was that list. It did evolve into Bucky in the next set. I can't remember which cards it got that pushed it that way. Exactly, but I finished top 32. I lost game 3 against Red Purple, which is a good matchup. I'm on the play. I mulliganed 6 cards, and I kept the only card in my hand that costs less than 3, a single Ursula 2, because I have to play something, praying I draw 1 drop, and I did not draw a single 1 or 2 drop. So I didn't play anything, and I played the Ursula 2. I looked at their hand, whiff, and their hand is like Maui, Maui, Castle, Castle, like Rabbit, Fox. And I'm just like, oh, I lose. I'm going to lose this game. And like, I lost that game. Like, I have to open on one of the 2 lore threats in that matchup to make it an easy win. Otherwise, they need to not have multiple castles. And they have castles, and I've shown I don't have any threats. And they have Maui's to actually stop my threats from 2-tapping. So that was unfortunate. Matt got second place, though. So he did well. So I finished 18th place in that event. And then I played in Chicago, and I lost. I played Green Steel Bucky, and I lost my winning in against Kapu. He was playing Red Purple, knocking me out of an event again. And I got really upset at Bruno's because my hand was like Beast, Bruno, Bruno, Bruno. And my opponent is like Castle. And they had a character. And it was this weird spot that I like did some like multi-turn math. And I was like, if I play the character and then sing the Bruno, they will draw an extra card every turn for like 4 turns. And there's no way I'm going to win this game. And I'm like, my only way to win this game is to bounce this. It might have even been a rabbit. Something I did not want to bounce, but I was like, I just have to bounce this because it was attached to the castle.
Yeah.
So it might have been like a turn 5 castle, move a character to it.
Yeah.
And like bounce the character, put them on no characters, deal some damage. And like they were like castle and another character, and like I can't remember the exact thing. I just know that I had to hard play Bruno, not singing it like 2 or 3 turns in a row, just wishing I could sing it, but I couldn't. I stabilized. My opponent Kapu played like 4 castles almost in a row. I dealt with all of them. He's at 19, no cards in hand, and he top decks Goat. And I'm just like, are you kidding me, Kapu? Come on, bro.
So that one hurt.
And yeah, so I get knocked out and don't get to let it go. Finished 169th place. I mentioned the place for a reason. The next event is Texas? Chicago, Texas, Vegas, Toronto, or no, Texas, Toronto. Yeah, so Texas is the next event.
Yeah.
I knew I was going to play Green Steel for a few weeks before the event. I just finalized on which version towards the end on that one. In this event, because Bivens did really well in Chicago with Amber Steel, I think.
Yeah.
But uninkability was kind of an issue. I found early that I felt that Underworld could replace Pride Lands, and while it dies to 1 Maui hit, occasionally you can play it and move a character and activate it the turn before they B-prep to then get back a character from your yard and still maintain. So its entire point was to play it the turn before it be prepared, and if you're on the play, and get the activation. Otherwise, you play it 2 turns before the be prepared, forcing them to have to play a Maui before they're be prepared to deal with it and leave the other characters, so it like buys turns that way.
Yeah.
And in testing, I was still beating Red Purple with it, and it was fulfilling the same role. At the event, it just got killed by Maui's. I never got to sequence it. I just drew it not at the right times. It did some work, but not enough. I can't remember exactly what. I got knocked out by Sky in round 7, 8. around before the last round. It's like obviously I had to play against someone like locals. It's like frustrating. He's on blue steel. I know he's on blue steel. I know that's not a great matchup for me necessarily. I know what I need to do to win, but it's rough. And game one, I start with queen, baby queen, go. I have shift, whole new world in hand. I'm ready to get going. And he fire the cannons, my baby queen, and I lose the game on the spot. Like I had just enough inkables to do that and no other. I had to ink the queen and just stumbled through and was like, oh, I'm out.
I think he told me that story as well when I interviewed him. That sounds familiar. Him telling this story about just to fire the cannons on a queen on one, just basically won the game.
That's all it does. Yep. And then I was going to concede to him anyways in game two, but I was gonna play it out up until the point. But he just like handled me. I didn't even get to like pretend to crush his dreams. I didn't even get to troll him. He just like handled me 2-0 the hard way, right? Like
you were hoping for that.
Sadly,
I'm about to win, but here you go, buddy. Go on
I didn't get to do that.
Yeah, you didn't get to do that.
I didn't get to mess with him. And sadly, a game in the next round didn't go his way, so he wasn't able to make day two, which is unfortunate. But it be that way. I finished once again 169th.
Wow.
And at this point, I'm joking with people, and I'm like, that's harder to do than get first place. Statistically, it's harder to get a random position two games in a row. Like, and so I joked with that. Then it was Toronto. Once again, didn't know what I wanted to play. Flip-flopping around. And then like a day or two before the event, I'm trying Lorcana Bros version of Amber Steel. Mm-hmm. And he's playing, I can't remember what he played. It might have been red blue, but I 2-0'd him in a game, I think. And then like I was like 2-0 split 2-0 0-2, and I'm like I'm sold. Like that's all. Like you give me, and I knew that was like not how it always is. But the fact that these games can occur, I know what play patterns I need to do to create this situation to occur, like means I could beat my worst matchup and then be fine against everything else. Like red purple, it's like it can be rough, but I'm fine. I've got flutes. So this was flute steel, amber steel. And obviously part of my soul hurt to play that over lanterns, but like we didn't have Naveen yet, and it's not set one with Stitch. So I did that. And round one, I'm paired up against red blue. And I was almost late to the round. I sat down for the player meeting. We're doing our stuff. And then they're like, be back by 9:45. And everyone around me like, what, 9:45? That's so late. It was like 9:15 at the time.
Right.
And so I got up. I went outside. I hung out a little bit. We came back in early. And everyone is sitting down. I have to like look on my phone and sprint to where I'm sitting. The person I was outside with got a warning. I did not get a warning somehow.
Brutal.
Like, so I play against red blue, and I think I get 0-2'd. And like my red blue opponent was even just like impressed by me, I guess, because I almost won both games. He like, I think one of the games he had to top deck something, and the other game, like, well, he just had the Sisu. But like the fact that I think I got to 18 or 19 lore both games against red blue.
Yeah, it makes sense that they would be surprised, because again, if you're the red blue player and you still see Steel Song, then that's again dependent on the pilot opposite you. That's still a bit of a okay. At least my deck's not against me in this matchup.
You'll be feeling great, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
If I'm playing red blue, I'm
underselling it
every round.
Yeah, I'm underselling it, but yeah, you get the point. It feels good.
And I lose that. I win the next round. I think the other people I'm there with, Zen, and Sailor, they each go 1-1. So I'm like, I guess I got one more point, whatever. Haha. But then they win for a bit, and then I think I get like one or two more splits, or I get one loss. One of the two. Basically, something occurs that I think I am mathematically out. And so I thought I had already thought that I had to win and can't get a single game loss. So I had even met, and this is like round 4 or 5 that I'm just like, oh my goodness, I'm in the quote unquote best of one, where I lose a 1 game and I'm out. And like I tell this to my opponent. I just say, it's like, oh man, we're in a terrible spot. I don't think either of us are in contention unless we win. And we split. And I'm just like, this is unfortunate, but like, that's all I say. I'm not going to try to be like, you should concede to me, because 1, I don't want to get DQ'd. And 2, it's like pretty effed, pretty messed up to do that. Sorry.
Yeah. No, you're fine.
And he like apologizes to me. And I'm just like, do not do that. Like, you should not feel bad for winning a game. I think I won game 1. So like, I guess that was like the thing, is like, theoretically, if you are going to do that, normally whoever wins game 1, whoever would win game 2 would normally concede, if that's the type of lifestyle you're doing. And I was like, just don't apologize. Just be upset that this is how 2-game format makes it be sometimes. And so at this point, I think I'm out. I'm literally only playing because I think I could get a let it go.
Yeah.
And I win 2 more rounds in a row. And then I find out I have the same record as Zen and Sailor. But in my mind, I think they're telling me that they're in contention. And I'm like, no, we're there. And they're like, no, you don't know how to math. You're missing 1. You're going to 44 and you needed to go to 45. I was like, oh, wow. And then so I have to win 3 more rounds of like where everyone is aware that a single loss gets them out. And it's just like the most stressful thing. And I win those rounds. I get there. I blew my mind. Did not like. I've gotten the luckiest and played my best Lorcana when I just think I'm fundamentally out of the event. Like, I saw I was playing red blue in Seattle in my first round of day 2, and I was like, oh, all right, this is where it ends.
This was fun.
This is the end. My own. So I won. I made day 2. So I got top 32, and then I had to play the mirror on the draw. So once again, I'm like, oh, doomsday time. I'm going to lose. And I won 2-0 on the mirror. My opponent got coaching by Chris Croy. And I'm not saying that as an insult, as much as he literally told me that he had gotten coaching by Chris Croy. He said he tried his list, but he couldn't win with it. He kept getting ink screwed. And so they adjusted the ink counts. And yeah, right. But he played, I think, 61 nothing. Or 62. He said he played a few more in honor of Chris. Yeah. But I did win. And my opponent was a great guy. Did not do anything that Chris Croy might have done. That's for sure. And then I find out my next round is against green purple. And part of me is like, I'm in. And part of me is like, I split with green purple on day 1, and I felt lucky to do it, but I also felt unlucky in both games. I'm like, this is kind of scary. And I play against someone that I can't remember their name, but I have seen them in the Magic circuit. So I'm like, all right, it's already someone who knows how to sling cards. So I'm not happy about that. And my mulligan strategy, which might be wrong, but I still do it to this day. So maybe it worked in the top 8 of Seattle, but I could have been lucky. I mulligan all my songs. I do not want to get hit by Ursula 2. And I want aerials, because that's how you play aerial, you draw the song, you sing the song, you remove the card, you just hope it's not Whole New World, or if you have Whole New World, you have a Robin Hood in play already. Yeah. Or something of those sorts. Mm-hmm. And I mull the songs. I draw no songs. I'm like, all right, we're golden. We have turn 1 Cindy. I think I just need to do whatever. They're on the play. They play something. They pass first, draw Whole New World. I pass the turn. They play Ursula 2. They take my Whole New World. I don't see another Whole New World the whole game. I had 3 turns in a row. Like, me and my opponent had talked about this, that there was a period in the game that they were ahead in the beginning. Mm-hmm. I stabilized, and I had 3 turns to do something. And I kind of just played a mid character for 3 turns in a row. And then they quote unquote baited me. I mean, they forced me to challenge into Castle. And then the next turn they played Cricky and basically demolished my board. And I was like, all right, I mean, well played, like well set up. I can't do much. And then in the next game, they had like a super, super clutch Ursula 7 that just like tapped something, exerted something, took it out. And it was just like very well played on their part. They did what they needed to do. My draw in the second game was mid-ish, but not terrible. I didn't get a whole new world off, I think, in either game. And it happens. So I'm like obviously upset, a little depressed, but like it happens. Shook it off. Got Vegas, you know. We'll prep for this. I've been
on to the next.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it helps I'm sure it helps with having a team. And again, towards the end, we'll talk a bit more about Labyrinth. I'm sure you'll plug them and all that jazz. But again, I'm sure, as well as just the like getting to test with great minds, just like keeping each other motivated, I'm sure is a huge part of it.
Oh yeah, countless bonuses and advantages from being on a team of amazing people.
Yeah.
And so only 3 of us went to Toronto. So that was also, so during the testing for Toronto, most of us were actually playing set 5. And I was streaming set 5 games and then testing internally set 4.
Yeah.
A dead format
meta.
set 4.
For our one day meta.
Bucky nerf.
Yeah.
Yeah, a one day meta. So that was intriguing. I had access to Diego's list, basically. Like, not his list, but we were aware of that deck, and it was a consideration, but I just couldn't pilot it properly, I think. I could not. I was not Diego. I mean, he's level 9001 for a reason. Like, he's absurd. And we ate dinner with him on Friday night, and someone took a picture of the group, and he was showing it to his wife later, and he's like, oh, that's Diego, he's going to win the event. And he won the event. So you got to have someone call you out as a victor. That's a big part of winning these events.
Yeah.
And so we go to Vegas. The testing up to Vegas, like, I had been dabbling in set 5 already. I'm in love with Doc. I saw it earlier. We talked about it. Like, so I've just been brewing Doc decks left and right. And
yeah,
I
covered your aggro deck. Like, just before the set, once we had the set, but it wasn't out yet, I always do a 10 decks that might do well. And one of them was your Amethyst Steel aggro deck with Doc, which I thought was very cool.
And yeah, I thought I was golden. I read the meta correctly, and I didn't think everyone would. And then there was some event before Vegas. I think it was an EU DLC, and it showed what I expected things to continue showing. We saw the meta seem to be going exactly how predicted, but a little bit faster than I wanted it to. So I expected red blue to crush all of the things before that, because like Toronto kind of showed that it was like kind of a good red blue meta, and the new cards in red blue was just like popping off.
Yeah. And
I'm like, I want the meta to be red blue and then hyper aggro beating it, because amber steel is nowhere and green steel didn't really have a showing in Toronto. Like, oh, Bucky's nerf, it's dead, no one wants to play it. I tried to play some Merfolk version because I assumed improperly that everyone would play Merfolk Flynn, because that was what the set 3 one was. And I tested some games, and like the Sisu deck just stomped it like into the ground. But at the beginning, red blue was playing like 4 human Sisus. So if they played 4 human, yeah, it's a bad matchup. Because eventually I played Doc, or I played Merfolk in my Doc list in Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
But then I was worried that it would catch on, and then a bunch of Steel Song might show up. So I was really worried about that, because I thought I had it solved. I'm like, I'm gonna play this Doc deck. And like, I'm stomping red blue, I'm stomping red purple, and I'm kind of going almost 50-50 with amber steel. It's a little rough, but I also did not expect very much. So that's like, my worst matchup is 50-50-ish feeling. I'm golden. And the hyper aggro decks, I also was beating them because I'm playing Fire the Cannons and like Snake and Fox and all the card draw, that it's like, sure, let's duel, let's do this, like, I've got you. And I just thought I broke it. And then the Euro DLC kind of me a little worried. I was like, whatever, I got it. But the meta kind of panned out the way I wanted. It was pretty good. I win the first round, and then round 2 I pair up against Ruby Steel. I'm like, no. And they had it. They had it all. I think I got O2'd. And I was just like, yeah, I mean, I'm not going to complain that much. Like, I was hoping not to play these matchups. I did. I could win if I had the right draw. I didn't. It happens.
Yeah.
But I continue to do well. I kind of win some more, pick up a draw. Eventually, I get into the situation that if you play in DLCs you're aware of, backs against the wall, can't lose a single game. I get in this position, I win 2 more rounds in a row. I'm going into the last round, I just need to win. I pick up the win. I'm freaking ecstatic. I got 45 points. We are golden. I had people comment, they're like, I didn't know if you won, but I saw you skipping afterwards. So I assumed you did. I like frolicked kind of to my friends. I'm like, we did it. Like, I can't believe it. Like, we got there. We got there. And
the
then
skipping
I find
wizard.
out that
The skipping wizard.
Yeah. I found out that more and more people were aware of how unfortunate it is to not make day 2 when you split in the last round. So more and more people are conceding to their opponent when they lose. Because they understand that this is the only way to get in, and it's a let it go. Like, you could maybe be in let it go contention. It's a weird thing. Are you going to concede to someone so they get to play day 2? Or are you going to try to win the second game and hope that you get a let it go? Like, so there's money on the line.
Yeah, for
but
what
more
it's worth,
people
like,
are now.
Just to pick on that point for a moment, because like I know how it's super controversial. And it's been a topic of been a topic of discussion in the last 48 hours. I've seen a lot over Twitter. My very simple, and like, it's going to sound like a cop out, but it's genuinely how I feel about a lot of things. I think both sides have perfectly good arguments. And I think it's genuinely just, I don't think you're in the wrong for falling on either side. You're going to be in the wrong to someone on the opposite side of that argument that feels differently. But again, whether on the argument of like, I won game 1, I've got more to potentially win out of getting this 2-0 than you can. And I think that's a fine stance to have. I also think it's perfectly fine to say, yes, but I want to let it go. I've paid a lot of money for this trip. This is a $750 card. Like, it's... And especially if I don't know you at all. And again, I always try and be kind to strangers. But putting my sword in the ground of like, I think both sides are perfectly valid, and both sides have good cause to feel upset when their opponent isn't on the same wavelength as them. It's just an unfortunate system of the byproduct of the system, should I say.
I guess the only thing I'll publicly state is that if you verbalize that you're going to concede a game if you lose game 1, and then you don't do it, you are trash. You are a terrible person.
I would go as far to agree as to say, yeah, I think that's very unsportsmanlike. If you like, don't get me wrong, I hate people being pressured into it. I despise that because like, I know a lot of people that don't like confrontation. I don't like confrontation. Like, I'll stand up for myself, but I don't like having to be in that position. But yeah, if you've specifically...
And I'll also say that if you're trying to pressure your opponent and guilt them and stuff like that, you are in the same boat.
Yeah.
And like, that's why, like I had mentioned in the Toronto, is like, yeah, I talked with my opponent and whatnot, but it's like, I tried everything not to pressure them, because it's like, they're here playing a Disney DLC. Yeah. They're having fun.
Yeah.
And like, him apologizing to me, I'm just like, no, I don't want you to feel bad for your decision. Like, I'm like, yes, you're knocking us both out of the event, but them the breaks. If I didn't want that to happen, I should have won game 2. I understand. It is your right to do as you choose. And that person did not say he was going to concede at all. Like, there was nothing in there. And like, it wasn't like he beat me and I was like, oh no, like, whatever, as much as he was just like, but he knew that I was upset, but like, I'm upset because in my mind I just didn't make day 2. I'm not upset at him.
Yeah.
Outside of the fact that he beat me, it's like, how dare you beat me? Like, obviously anyone is going to be upset at losing to an extent. Like,
and I get it though, because like, again, this isn't to the same extent as making day 2 at a DLC, but I've knocked someone out of their contention to get an Ursula in set 3 set championships, and I did feel bad. Like, it's just
exactly.
It's just who I am. I didn't feel so bad that I just gave them the win. I went on and I kept playing and came second. But like, you could see the disappointment, and I think it's very human to just have that bit of sympathy. And even though you have done nothing wrong, I still think it says a lot about your character if you have that sort of like, oh, I knocked you out, I feel like a bad person even though I shouldn't. I'm playing the game same as you. No one should feel bad, but I respect the characteristic, for sure.
Yeah, it always feels weird when you say you're sorry when you beat someone, but like, I've said it too. It's just like sometimes it's like, oh my goodness, I have so much empathy right now because I've been in your place, or like I just know what it feels like, that I'm just like, I'm sorry you feel this way. It's like, but saying that kind of sounds like you're down talking. I'm sorry you feel bad for losing. Maybe you should have won. But so more people have just been conceding to their opponents. So 45 is slowly getting pushed out. So more 45-point players did not make day 2 in Vegas than made day 2. So I got 71st place. Ducky, I'm pretty sure Ducky also bubbled out. We both won our winning in, and and it's extra punishing and just demoralizing and soul crushing, is because we had that moment where we're like, we did it. You have the ecstaticness. We made day 2, and then it's like, nope, you didn't.
And then it got taken away.
And then I was trying to be realistic, and I was just like, my breaks aren't good. I don't think I'm getting in. And everyone's like, no, you are getting in then. And then so it's like, then you get the hope, and then you're like, well, okay, all right, we got it. And it's like, no, you don't. But
you're trying to temper your expectations.
You can't fix that.
Yeah, and that's sometimes the opposite side of like having a good support system, is like the situation that you point out there, where you're trying to you're trying to temper your expectations of like, oh, I don't think I've got it, and then people are like, you have, and they build you up, and you're like, all right, yeah, I have got it, and then when you don't, so yeah, it is kind of like the counter edge of having a supportive base. But I'm sure there's still far more positives to having that support than any negatives there'll ever be. That's so you've had a soap opera journey of a DLC Lorcana career so far, because honestly, all of that was, not only was it fascinating to listen to, but just the fact that you remember all of it and in such good detail tells me a few things. One of them, obviously, you're a content creator, you've told these stories before, but it also tells me like how much time you've spent fixating over them, probably in your own time, and replaying these memories. And like, probably in this latest DLCs, there are a few games where you thought you were about to lose, and flashes before your eyes of like your Lorcana career. I'd like to use that as a transition to bring us to the successful one. But yeah, finish your point you were going to make.
I remember the play mistake I made to not make top 8 of the first PTQ I played when I was 18 years old in 2003. I basically played a bunch of things at the end of their turn and just didn't play a shock. I just didn't, to deal 2 damage, gain 2 lore or whatever. And then on my next turn, I had this insane turn where I did like 10 things and I got my opponent to 2 and then lost because I didn't. And I still had the shock in hand, but I didn't have enough ink to then play it because I didn't realize all the things I was going to do. But I'm not going to digress into that.
But yeah, that leads us to the latest DLC, which, tell us about that. You played Green Steel. I was going to say what led to that decision, but it seems to be a bit of a staple for yourself.
Well, yes, no.
Okay.
I play steel decks a lot, so that's probably my quote unquote specialty is using those. I mean, I've played hundreds of games with red blue. Everyone's like, you're on red blue? That's so surprising. I was like, Sailor sent me that list as soon as he built it. I was jamming that. It was so awesome. Like, I had lots of fun. Yeah, Sisu on Ice, and like, I don't like playing against the deck, and I really don't like playing against Flabbersham, but occasionally I'll play it. But yeah, I have obviously had the best success with green steel lists and an amber steel list. And so I'm wanting to play Doc more after the event, like after Vegas. I'm like, Doc is great. But Zan had to win it with green steel. And green steel is arguably my worst matchup with Doc. I had found this out playing Pixelborn Connect. I was just, and the green steel decks on Connect were playing Tinkerbell as a 4 of and like 3 grab your swords. And I'm just like, this is so bad, but terrible into red blue.
Yeah.
But then Dale innovated. This madman is just trying to make people play discard again. And then Zan like, this story could be wrong. I'll let Zan correct it if it's wrong. But like multiple people see Dale's friend playing one of Dale's lists in the Friday event and do very well with it. And then so like Lorcana Bro and Zan, they adjust their green steel lists to this like newer teched version, and Zan crushes with it, right? Like he sees the innovations, he texts to his play style, his understanding of the deck, how he wants to play it, and then he crushes. Man's brilliant, right? Like mad props. And then he ruins my dreams. Like I'm gonna play Docs. And then a few days before, like a day or before, or the night before, we see Zan's list somewhere. Gets somehow like we see it. I think he shares it. I know Kendall's playing it. Kendall might have even played Zan's copy of the deck on Friday, for the Friday event. And I'm planning on playing a Doc deck in the Friday AM. I get to the convention center at 11:45 AM. The last big event started at 11:30, so I could play in 3 round events. Nah, not worth my time. I mean, no offense. It's just like I don't know what I'm playing. So I'm going to play test then. I was like, I'm either going to play this deck in the big event. Oh, sorry. I was planning on playing Amber Steel, Wochuck's list.
Mm-hmm.
I was like there was a 700 person event in Europe, and they had a spreadsheet that showed how every event deck did, and green steel was like green on everything. And it was like 50-50 with Amber Steel. And I'm like, well, that's definitely skill diff. I think Amber Steel's favored. And if you count up all the percentages, but you don't count red blue, Amber Steel's better against most of the other decks as well. But its red blue matchup is so terrible that it's like it went down on its overall victory. So I was like, well, if I can find a list that beats red blue or goes 50-50 with red blue, I'm playing Amber Steel. So I'm like, I'm going to play Boomy's list, and I'm going to play Wochuck's list. And I couldn't find a couple Svens when I was looking through cards. So I was like, okay, I'll start with Wochuck's list. And I won 7 games in a row. On basically the whole stream I played, I won until the last round I lost to a Mufasa deck. And I had like pretty bad draws too. So I was like not feeling bad. And I did not expect Mufasa, so no big things. But not a single person was on red blue. And it's Thursday night, so everyone's traveling and getting stuff. I even like ping in the Discord. I was like, someone beat me with red blue, please. So I don't get to do that.
Give me a reason not to do this, yeah.
Please tell me not to play this deck. Like, it's feeling too good. It's got to be a trap. Like,
yeah, I get you.
But so I bring the cards to build. I have the Amber Steel list, Wochuck list built. I have Green Steel Doc built. And in the same colored sleeves, I have, because the 100 cards, I have the extra cards to make the Zan Green Steel, like, default stock list, like the one he won Vegas with.
Yeah.
And then I have, like, Purple Steel Doc. And so I brought 4 decks. And I waited. I didn't get to play any games. I just walked around the convention center, took pictures. I went and got lunch with TFM Dan, had a great time chatting with him. Great guy, great dude. I've been watching more of his content. Yours as well. You two should both feel happy. I don't watch content. I'm a terrible content creator. I never watched Twitch until I started streaming Twitch, and then I've started watching more because it's only fair. And like Earl's got some great content, so I'm gonna watch it as well. And other streamers too, who I'm not gonna be nice enough to call out because I'm a jerk.
We're all villains here.
Yeah, we're all villains. We're all villains today. And so then I get back and Sailor shows up and I'm like, all right, please.
If someone's gonna beat me with red blue, this is exhibit number 1.
Yeah, I'm like, I want the best player in the room to give me a reason not to play. And if I beat him, golden.
Yeah.
And he beats me 5 games in a row. And then I win a game, and then he beats me like 3 or 4 more games in a row. And I'm like, all right, shove it. Give me green steel. Stock green steel. Let's play a game. Let's
Give me the Prince John. Where's the Prince John?
I don't. I didn't even use my list. I just used the list that Sailor had on him because I didn't even want to de-sleeve cards. I was like, whatever. I sleeve it up, and I beat him 1 game, the first game, and he takes his deck and he puts it away. He's like, we're done. And I'm like, no, I know, because he knows that it's a favored matchup for him, and that's not how the game should play. But he's like, no, you're playing that. Like this is what we're doing. And so at this point, I'm like, fine. I'm like 95. I'm just gonna play green steel. I'm just gonna hope that like the amount of games I've played with it, like I have been playing some games with the regular Zan green steel, not too successfully, but kind of. I've been the villain in some playtest sessions where it's like I play the deck, I know how to do it. There is actually a very big skill diff to playing green steel that a lot of people don't know, and you have to read a primer normally to find out, apparently. And that is hard mulligan. You are only, like 99% of the time, you are only keeping Diablo, a baby Diablo, and a big Diablo, and then you're mulling the rest. Unless you have the nut. If you have both a baby Diablo and a big Diablo, if you have them both, the world is yours. Then you mull 5 if you don't have a song. But if you have a song, then you keep the song and you mull the rest, or you pick and choose. You're like, oh, this is a good card. I get to keep it for once. He. You super hard mulligan there in the blind. You keep however many Diablo pieces you have. You do not keep a song. You play almost 20 songs in your deck. You do not keep a song if you do not have the full thing. So if I have just a baby Diablo, I am mulling 6. If I have just a big Diablo, I am mulling 6. There is some outliers. You keep morph, I guess I should say. If I have baby Diablo morph, I'm getting rid of the morph. But if I have morph Diablo, I'm keeping those, and I keep that's the combo, right? Like you have the shift line, you keep it. Sometimes if I'm frisky and I think the hand is overall good, but it does not have it, I might keep Morph Beast. But most like I might go Morph Beast Mull 5. Mm-hmm. Like, so there is some play. Like I said, 99% of the time you do all of it. There is outliers. Yeah. In the finals, I knew I was against Amber Steel. I kept Baby Diablo, Ursula 2. Highly regretted it. I drew a 3rd Ursula. I never saw the shift line. I lost game 1. In game 2 and 3, I think I saw 2 Ursula 2s in my starting. I only kept 1, but I did keep 1. I'm definitely always keeping 1 because they've got Cindy Lou Who, and I need to prevent that from wrecking me. I never had the nuts in the finals. I got very lucky to win that matchup. I feel like my opponent got unlucky. I got lucky. The story of Seattle day 2 for me. Luck. It's like
everyone needs some though. I mean, like I'll draw reference again. Like I remember watching Zan's games in Vegas, and like there is no one is doubting that Zan is one of, if not the best player in the game. Or I think probably there's an argument he's had the most successful first season. I know it's not finished, but no dispute Zan is an incredible player. But bad gold, he had everything, and I think in multiple games on stream, and I'm sure there were times in Swiss where that wasn't the case. Again, all the respect in the world to Zan, but I remember him saying I think it was his podcast that he does, his like sit down one he does with someone, where he was like, I thought of a card and I drew it, and like sometimes there has to come that point where skill and luck shake hands, right?
I do it on stream a lot. I'm just like, all right, we're gonna draw a whole new world because it's the only thing we can draw. And then when you draw it, you're just like, oh, I'm so big brained. Like sometimes you have to play to your outs.
I set that up.
Like obviously,
I set that up. I did.
Yeah. Sometimes just top decking the whole new world. Sure, you didn't play to that, but like being like, okay, I have no songs in hand. I have an Ursula 3 and like another card I could play. Sometimes you have to play the Ursula 3 because the only way you're in the game is if you top deck a song. And I think I did that in the finals a few times, or at least in the top 8, where it's like, I'm going to play this Ursula 3. They're going to answer it, which is good for me because they're not answering the cards in my hand or other cards. I have no songs, so it's fine. And they don't answer it, and I top deck the song. There was a thing where I played a morph. I top decked the like I have a beast in hand, but I hit the Tinkerbell, just win the game on the spot. And it's just like, yes, like I didn't necessarily like play to that out in that scenario, but like if you make the plays to allow luck to occur,
you put yourself in the
that's
position. Yeah, you put yourself in
to
that
be
position.
Lucky. I played green steel. I got pretty lucky. I split with red blue. I almost 2-0'd them. I got to like 17. I got by inking a bunch of cards, Aladdin, activate play Vitalisphere, activate Vitalisphere, take out my character after a B prep, and I had like done some other things, and then the next turn they top deck Flaversham and I lose. I'm like, okay, that's fair. It happens. I ended up choosing Bannible's list version of Zan's deck, which was similar to Zan's. It had the one of Doc. I know Zan was also on a one of Doc. And then the Babooms. And they were, I'm pretty sure he was at least the day before. He might not have for the event, but I think his, like, as soon as I heard that he even thought of it, I was like, well, yeah, the card's amazing. I'll do that instantly. You sold me. All right, Bannable, you got me. I'll play your list. Just give me your 60. And the Babooms would just, like, I would not have won this event without Babooms.
I was going to ask you specifically
I would not have made
about
day 2
Baboom.
without Babooms.
Some lists I see are very similar, but they're fire the cannons. What's your thoughts on cannons versus
if you can
Baboom
afford
in
it?
that spot? Gotcha.
I mean, I like cannons more, but there's a lot of uninkables in that deck.
Yeah.
And I like to be able to ink my silver bullet cards, and Baboom is that type of card. It doesn't seem like it, but it kind of is. If I play the full dock version, if I have 4 docks, I'm playing Fire the Cannons. I'll discard it. I don't care. Like I'm trying, every ink counts when I'm trying to just dump my hand aggressively and then and go off. So in that regards, I'd play it. But if I have fear of red blue, I'm playing Baboom. If I have no fear of red blue, I'm playing Cannons.
Gotcha.
I don't remember too much more of Seattle, even though it just happened. Honestly, like a lot of matchups kind of went in my favor. I had a fantastic day. I think I was able to start drawing at 5-0-2.
Gotcha.
So I had a couple early draws that made it scary, but then I won the matchups I needed to. Had some lucky top decks. Like I'm pretty sure I had a top deck turn 4 Tink Shift take out 3 characters like I did in the top 8 in day 1 to secure like one of the victories I needed to then start drawing in, and that felt great. One story I tell the person in the final round that I drew with, he comes up to the table, I'm like, draw, he says yes, I go, judge, because there was a judge walking away. You're supposed to call the judge to roll dice for you. His eyes get really big. He's like, what did I say wrong? Did I do it wrong? Oh no. I'm like, would you roll a dice? We're splitting. Would you roll the dice to see who wins game 2 for us? And then they did that, but like I gave him a miniature heart attack for a second. I didn't mean to, so I felt a little bad. But then like I love telling the story because it's hilarious. But
just an unintentional villainous moment.
Yeah. And I'm pretty sure he also made top 16, so I'm gonna get to see him again in January. That'll be neat.
Yeah, I bet you're super excited for that as well. And a stress off your mind as well, that you don't need to worry about LCQs or anything like that.
And so, we'll backtrack for half a second. So it was literally last second that I chose to actually finalize Bannible's list. It was super late at night. I needed to go to bed. I got it done and I went to bed.
Yeah.
The longest it's taken me so far. to pick a deck.
Okay.
And then I make day 2. I see that I have to play against red blue, and I'm in Doomsayer mode. I'm just like, great. The version I split with and almost beat was an item build, and I think I'm more favored versus that than the traditional one, because he didn't have Sisus. He just had just 4 B preps, and I can like get lucky with my Ursulas, and that's how I won one of the games. Is like just hitting the cards that mattered and just going wide if I can. And I lose game 1. There was a judge call that some people were not happy with me calling a judge, but whatever. I'm not going to get into that. If anyone's interested in hearing my opinions on that, I talked about it on stream in depth, and my VODs are up. So within the next week or 2, if you want to watch that, you can go watch it.
Yeah.
And I lose game 1. No matter what the judge call happened, I was so far behind, and I was just like, great. I'm on the draw. I got to win 2. I win game 2. My opponent just like drew dead for like 4 turns. Like I get them out of cards in hand. They're at like 12 lore, and they have like a couple minor characters in play, like a Tipo and a 3/3, and I like stabilize. But I'm at 0 lore, and they've got 10 ink in play. And I just have to start committing characters, removing what they have, try to start questing. And it's just like, Ice Block, Fishbone, Tipo, I win. I'm just like, holy crap. Like, did that just happen? That just happened. And then in game 3, I'm on the draw. I think I open with Diablo, Shift, Morph, Beast. And I might not have actually then played the Beast, though. I think I drew a second Diablo to be able to like push double Diablo into his Flaversham that he had to play. And on the Beast turn, I might have even played Cove. I wasn't on stream for this. Like the same thing kept happening though. Like,
I was gonna say that sounds like a familiar play.
Like the first 3 turns of the game should almost always be, if you're lucky, the same integrations. And then I got into a point where my opponent had 4 or 5 cards in hand. I have Prince John in hand and an Ursula in hand. I've got 6 ink. And I've got 2 Prince Johns and like Morph on a Cove. And I'm just like, if he has a B prep or a Sisu, I lose. But I have to overcommit. If I can turn sideways 2 more times, I win the game.
Yeah.
I turn everything sideways. He ends up challenging with his Tamatoa. He had just played. He challenges Prince John. I think he like brawls the Ursula and draws like a card or 2 and passes. And I just turned it all sideways. I think I drew something that did nothing. Maybe one lore card I played. I passed the turn. He draws 3 or 4 cards. He doesn't draw an answer, and I win the game. And I'm just like, what just happened? Like I am so ecstatically happy inside. Like it's just like, it's this match is why I've been like, yeah, I got lucky. That's what happened. Like it's the only thing. Then I think the next round I played Lore Gaines, and he was on Steel Fossa. Luckily for me, he beat the location deck. I streamed today. Someone was playing the location deck and like beat me up pretty hard. It was my first game playing after the DLC, and I played against the location deck, and it just stopped me. And I'm like, thank you, Lore Gaines, for beating that, because Steel Fossa, I feel favored. Like it can be rough if they like. You have to banish the correct things with your removal to prevent a Tink shift or anything like that from blowing you out. And I was able to handily do that. I think I 2-0'd. It might have been 1-2, but I think I 2-0'd. So I made top 8. I'm like, Mickey secured. Yeah. Weekend's great. Don't care what happens. Like, it's done. And like the team's like, nah, your day's not done. You got this.
Of course, it's their job. They have to. I'd have been the same.
I've been wanting this for 6-7 months. Like I've spent so, like, I wouldn't be here if I didn't do well in Georgia, first of all. Like if it wasn't for my team, I wouldn't have spent money. Like I didn't spend money to travel to the 10K in Miami, even though I thought I would win it. I thought I was like, because I was crushing at Pixelborn, I'm like, no one's playing like I literally created Steel Song in its purest form in the beginning. Some people played some aggressive Lilo decks that sometimes played Steel Whole New World, but I was just like, no, we're playing Lanterns, we're playing Hook shift line, Stitch shift line. This is how you play the game, and it's insane. And I felt like I was unbeatable. Like I was beating red purple like 60%, 70% of the time against No I'm Not and Elrathian, who are like hands down some of the best red purple players in the world. I'm just like, no, this is the best deck hands down, and no one was playing it. I thought it was shoo-in, but I am worrisome. I was like, I can't spend that kind of money to travel, so I didn't. But then someone shouted me out who did pretty well playing a list that was inspired. It was a more aggressive, but still had like some of the things, and so that was like made me feel all warm and fuzzy. I think they either won it or they got like top 2, I think, and so that felt good. I'm digressing too much. We go back. I make top 8. It feels great. And then I kind of like was on the play and had great matchups. Like the finals is the matchup that I'm like slightly unfavored. But the two, like the green purple, I thought I was going to play red purple, but I played green purple. And that was slightly worrisome because of the fears of Toronto. I'm just like, oh, what if they just have the Ursula wreck my hand, shift Ursula, take me out? Like, I was terrified. I think I even lost game 1 there in that match. Oh, yeah, I lost game, like, I almost stabilized against 2 shifted 7 Ursulas in play. I just assume I'm going to lose. I have to challenge a Diablo into an Ursula to get it off the field. And I somehow get to this point where my opponent is at like 13 lore, but they don't have like anything. But I also don't really have it, but I got some cards in hand. I'm like, oh, how did I do this? I stabilized. And like, go. I'm like, no! Like, no. I'm like, all right. Rally. And then like I had some intense games where I kind of had Beast stay in play for multiple turns. Like I felt like I'm constantly jamming my threats, trading as much as I can while trying to keep my beasts doing something. I think I had to eventually actually challenge with one of them to just maintain like my opponent being at a low enough lore count that I just don't get goaded out, but I still have enough cards to answer everything, and I get there. And then in game 3, like I get their hand empty and they draw Mystical Rose when they have no cards in hand. And it's just like, all right, like, I mean, and some people are gonna be like, that's why you don't play that. And it's like, yeah, sometimes I draw Lanterns when I have no cards in hand and I lose the game. Sometimes you draw Cinderella 1.
Mystical Lantern Beast Relentless list made top 8 at DLC, and so I think people need to stop. Stop talking that way. Like, what did that feel like to sit down and read that deck list? Like, what is this mystical?
People are like, you need to
card?
look at the list. People are like, you have to look at the list. I was like, I'll see it when I sit down. They're like, no, it's ice. And it's like, oh man, that's insane. Like, that's some cool stuff.
Yeah. Love the innovation from this DLC.
Lots of Jonathan Ball's deck, insane.
Yeah, the Ruby Amethyst aggro deck, mind blowing. Like, as a Ruby Amethyst enthusiast, it's given me a lot to think about. But yeah, super cool.
Some closest early games against red purple, followed by doing what green steel does: out card advantage, gets rid of the board removal. I tried to maintain the ability to constantly take down castles if I could. I definitely missed far too many draw triggers from multiple things, and I found out today that I accidentally drew 2 off of a
sudden chill.
A sudden chill, yes. So I had just played the Hypnotize, drew 2, and then I played that and drew 2, and I'm assuming that my brain was thinking I had 2 Prince Johnson play, or I had played Hypnotize.
I was in the chat watching that match live, and that was don't get me wrong, some of Twitch chat is wild. I've told you this before, Twitch chat, you're wild. But the general gutwayas from people there was that there was nothing malicious about that. That was like, you thought it in that moment it was a Hypnotize. And it happens. Yeah, and it didn't affect the match at all.
I'm assuming I was just like, I had already, I've won. Like, this game is mine. Like, I've got it. I'm like doing the math in my head how to properly sequence the amount of cards to get rid of the cards out of their hand. And then like I pull the trigger and I start doing it, and I did it a little too fast. I'm assuming
Yeah.
that is how it happened, because obviously I didn't notice
Didn't
it. Like, I
realize.
literally
Yeah,
found
yeah.
out about it on stream today. Not a fan of that though. I need to play better. Missed way too many triggers.
It happens. There was I think it was Atlanta, Savage, and the like how far I'll go Maui situation, just a dexterity error. There was Zan playing I think he played Sudden Chill before, or he played a discard card before putting Prince John on the board. Just had that moment.
And then drew a card.
Yeah. So it happens. We are, even the best players in the world are human beings. Shockingly.
Yeah, it's just terrible. It's not a good look. So it's
no,
like,
I get it.
If you keep seeing me do this, call me out.
Yeah,
It's like that's the thing. Is just like you won't. You better not. Like, I am like an idiot and do stupid things, as in like make mistakes, but I try not to.
Yeah, you're already punishing yourself more for it than anyone else could possibly do. So,
and then the forgetting I had the other, like, I just forgot about the other Prince John way in the corner. So I like played a Prince John, made him discard 2. I was like, I'm gonna play this Prince John. My Sudden Chill's gonna draw me 2 cards, and it would, because I had 2 Prince Johns. I do it, but I double sing it, and I was like, yeah, the Ursula makes me draw 2 because of the Prince John. So I drew 4 cards total. I should have drawn 8. I can't remember exactly which game that happened in the red purple, but that happened. There was a judge call, a lot of speculation. No one knew what it was. It was because both of us forgot to gain him his lore from his library. So he had missed 3 lore. They said he didn't get it. He appealed. They went into the tank for a long time to find out what they should do about it. Eventually, they said he gets none of it. And they were like, well, we would rewind if it had just happened. And he was like, well, it happened last turn. And they're like, no, it was 2 turns ago because you challenged last turn. And so that was why it kind of took a while, because they were just making sure to do it right. They didn't want to drop the ball. And that handled embarrassing for both me and Logan, like, because we missed, like, we're both there and we both missed it, right? And you'll see in the next game after that, if you watch, I like point at his library on his upkeep because he forgot it, and or the castle. But I didn't forget it that time. I was just like, let's not, like, it was fresh in the mind. Don't forget locations. If you watch my stream, I miss my own locations 30% of the time. But anyways, I played against Sean, and like one of the first things he said was like, I watched your stream. I play Ember Steel because of you playing it in the beginning. I'm just like, oh, he's melting my heart. I'm gonna make mistakes. I already see it. Like, bro's gonna crush. He's like, I loved watching your stuff. You taught me everything. I'm gonna beat you with what you taught me. Great guy. Played some games. I missed a beast trigger in the game that I was already winning and super far ahead of, and he was like, you get it. I'm like, no, don't give it to me. Don't like, because I had some other triggers with draw things, so I'm like a little off on like if I get the beast trigger, and like my mind, I was like, do I actually still get to draw the card? And it's like, no, it's a different type. I think it's a May type or something, like it's a little bit different. So my opponent gets to choose if I get it. And he was like, oh yeah, you can draw a card. I was like, no, don't let me draw a card. Don't do it. And he's like, no, you can draw a card. Just like, and then the judge goes, it's not up to you if you want to draw a card. It's his choice. And so it's like, all right, I'm drawing the card. All right, so I'll draw the card.
I guess I'll draw.
And then he conceded almost immediately afterwards because I had lethal in play. So I was like, all right, I'll draw the
card. Good vibes for that game then.
And in game 1 in there, I kept double Ursula and then got super punished. I drew a third one. He had no songs and had double aerial into quad aerial. In game 1, he had like a slightly above average hand that turned out to be a great hand against me, like a fantastic hand. And I had a mid hand that got worse and worse. Mm-hmm. I also made some mistakes, some sequencing errors. Like as soon as I played the Ursula 2 on turn 3, I was like, no, I meant to Pete. Like I thought the play and then rethought it and was like, oh, I do it this way, did it, and I was like, no, because I meant to play the Pete.
That's not what we said, Brain.
Yeah, right. I meant to play Pete, so when he plays aerial, he grabs removal. He can't sing it, so my first Ursula is guaranteed. I was going to play 2 Ursulas, so he had 2 turns to draw a card, and then the 1 hit. So I was like, if the first Ursula hits and sees something, I can play both. Otherwise, I play 1 and pass. I also had a 3 cost. I had a Rage in hand. So then I ended up having to like ink the Rage, I think that same turn or the next turn, because then I couldn't I didn't have a singer, so it like threw off a bunch.
Yeah.
I don't think I would have won the game had I done the sequencing I wanted anyways. I ended up having to put myself in poor situations over and over again in the game because of Rapunzels that I knew about, and he eventually pulled the trigger on the Rapunzel and the game was over. In the next game, I think was the game that I strengthed a Cinderella. I was thinking I was huge big brain when I did it because I swear I remember seeing Cinderella stout-hearted on that deck list at the beginning and making a mental note to play around it. But I'm just a silly Billy and it was not in his deck. So I made this like super tech play that was wrong. I could have killed an Ariel. I didn't kill an Ariel and I killed a Cindy one instead. But he was going into 5 ink, and at that point in the game, I actually was like, I have this game. Even if he plays a whole new world, I felt very good about my position, as long as because I think I had just played a Pete. I think it was like play Pete, sing the removal. So I knew he couldn't really do too much, and it was like, this way I don't get got by a Cindy 7 because I don't have an out to Cindy 7, and I'll probably lose to it. Yeah. But it turns out that was a mistake. And then we didn't exchange deck lists in between games. I think I had even like made a note at some point to check something I couldn't remember, which might have even been the Cindy, and forgot to later when we did it. And then I think when I looked at my opponent's hand in game 3 with an Ursula 2, I was like pretty happy because I was like, this is an okay hand, but it's not what you need. Yeah. I didn't have the Diablo get go, but I had I think it was the Beast Morph, and they didn't have an out for enough turns, and I was able to answer. And I was like, we got this as long as they don't top deck crazily. Yeah. And
then here we are.
So if you want to watch my channel, it's Wonderland at .ttv or TTV, however, with 2 V's. I am Luke Wonderland on Twitter. I think I'm just Wonderland on Instagram. I think you can find me as Wonder13 or Wonderland on TikTok. I just started that today. There's some cool videos there, I guess.
You can send me the links later, and I'll put them all in the description. So these will all be below places that you can find Wonderland.
Perfect.
And yeah, any shout outs or thank yous you want to give? You're most welcome. And again, you're a shout out to Labyrinth, your team. That again, good season for Labyrinth. So we look forward to more great things to come. And also, the thing I'm surprised you've not mentioned is the
ICL.
Yeah, the ICL. Yeah, you want to talk a little bit about that for anyone that might not know?
Yeah, there's so many things to mention, so many people to shout out.
Yeah.
It's like, so I'm not going to shout anyone out. Sorry, you're all amazing. You know how amazing you are to me. You should know. If you hear this, you know. If you don't think I'm referring to you, then I'm not. I don't.
There you go.
But the ICL is great. You can check that out on my channel as well. Fridays at 6 p.m. We're not doing it this week, Central Time. Hopefully, we'll be doing it next week. We're going to be announcing all 16 teams soon, as well as who's going to be in the exhibition match next week.
Amazing. Normally at that point there, I would cut it and it would just be me in my lair doing the outro. But since you have put on the villain hat today, would you like to give us an evil laugh to send us home?